Welcome everybody. We're excited to present to you today the Social Media Strategist certification program from Certification Partners and an additional CIW certification program. I'm Todd Hopkins, Vice President of Product and Development and Operations, and have been with CIW for a number of years and look forward to sharing this with you. The title of our webinar today is Social Media Strategist. Are you participating? And the key of that question is really, it doesn't matter whether or not you are actively working and have a strategy for your social media for your organization or your business, because it's probably happening around you already. So the purpose of this this program is to help us plan and organize and work that social media activity that is out in the world today, whether or not, because it's happening whether or not we are actually participating. And I'm here with Lauren Jones, our Director of Web Development and Design. We move to this slide and see our pretty little pictures. And Lauren, could you want to go ahead and introduce yourself just a little bit?
Yes, I do all of the company's websites, and I work with some of our other members in the marketing team to help coordinate our email campaigns and our social media campaigns as well. And I've always been interested in social media. I joined Facebook the minute it existed, so this is something that I spent a lot of time studying myself.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lauren. Lauren's been a great help as we've been working on this, this program. Moving into the agenda, just kind of want to go through a few of the topics that we'll be experiencing today. First, we'll talk a little bit about CIW for those that might be new to the CIW program. We'll talk about the various certification programs we have, our career pathway, those types of things. Then we're going to talk what is social media strategy. Lauren will help us understand a little bit of that and move us into our CIW approach to this strategy, talking about objectives and those types of things. Then we'll go through the core topics of the course. There are 10 lessons in it, and we will talk about each of those a little bit, help you understand the direction that the program is going and what we're trying to teach in those and within this course material, and to prepare you for the certification exam. Then we've got some new things that we're going to talk about with the CIW online course materials. There's some changes and modifications of the platform that we will be using for this, starting with this curriculum and the other CIW courses, and we'll talk briefly about how that changes a little bit. But we would like to just put a little plug in right now, because in 2 weeks we're going to have a webinar specifically about that new platform that we are moving CIW curriculum to, and I think you'll all be very interested in participating in that. And then we'll end with the positioning of the Social Media Strategist certification program, talking about how it fits within the course flow, as well as some of the things that will help you as you prepare for that certification program. So moving right into our topics here, we want to talk a little bit about CIW and introduce that to those of you that may be new to our program. We are a skills-based technology education standard. What that means is we take a very holistic approach to a certification program. We want to obviously create a certification that helps prepare you for job skills and job roles and the industry, whether that's in digital marketing or wherever it might be, or whether it's just in web design or whatever those areas are. We focus on a variety of skills: search engine optimization, social media obviously, and web design and development. We focus on being a vendor-neutral certification program, and what that means is we will profile various companies' applications or services that they may have, but we also focus and include a lot of open source opportunities. We don't want to just teach you how to use an application. We want to teach you why you want to do certain things with those various applications, how you use them in business, and the purposes in which you can take that through your career and build out, like we talk about with Social Media Strategist, how you can use that to build your strategy. So that's kind of the focus with our vendor neutral area. I like to say that we're vendor neutral, but we're not vendor absent. When we do get to the certification program, we do not ask very specific questions about a certain vendor's application. We might profile, you know, a type of application, but not necessarily how do you navigate through a specific vendor's application. We are globally accepted. We have individuals that are certified throughout the world, from Europe to China to the United States to South America, Africa, a number of places throughout the world, and we appreciate all those that have taken time to participate in our certification program. We talk about preparing you for your career, and so as we look at this slide and we start at the bottom, it starts with our Web Foundation series, and that's kind of where CIW begins, teaching people, you know, how to use the internet for business, teaching them site development techniques, HTML5 and CSS3, starting with those, and then moving up into our new series, which Social Media Strategist is a part of, one of 7 programs within this web and mobile design series. And then as you move through those programs, getting to the top of this to a variety of job roles. Social Media Strategist will help prepare you for a number of things within marketing, within public relations, a variety of career opportunities that are here, and when we're talking about social media, it's constantly changing and constantly growing, so there's a great opportunity as we move into this. Lauren, would you like to talk to us a little bit and help us understand what social media strategy is?
Yes. So basically, the situation with social media is that it's easy to believe that if it's not really your thing, and maybe it doesn't seem like it is a part of what your company needs to worry about, then you can just ignore it. And that people are just going to go ahead and they'll just go to your website to talk to you. They're not going to bother to try and talk to you on Facebook if you don't have a presence. But that is just completely not true. When people look for you on the medium they use most, and if that medium happens to be social media, and you're absent, you're basically taking the position that your company's not modern, that you don't care, that you're not interested in having quick communication and responding quickly to the customer's needs. So having a poorly filled out social media, a poorly represented social media, no social media is taking a position in that situation, and you're showing your customer what you think about things. So it's important to have a presence, and on top of that, it's important to have a presence where you have strategically planned exactly what you're trying to do. It needs to be coordinated across your company. You can't have something that's haphazard where there's one group posting something with a certain tone of voice and another group that likes to post photos, and then maybe you have an intern somewhere who is slightly unprofessional talking to your customers. That's not a good plan. You also need to look at the situation where you have a lot of flexibility in how you do things. If you watch the modern world with social media, when things happen, companies have to be able to respond quickly. And that's not just with the risk management piece where you're thinking about, oh, what if a customer posts a review of one of my products that really goes viral and it's really negative review. You're also thinking of the idea of what if suddenly one of my products becomes incredibly popular and I'm not prepared for being flexible enough to start posting more ads about it or posting more information about it or responding to an onslaught of customers suddenly wanting to talk to me. Your social media is also a 24/7 advertisement for your company. So at 3 in the morning, somebody's looking at it and they may be messaging you from across the world, and how are you going to handle that? And the other piece is that lately, in the last few years, all of these social media platforms have really become good at data and analytics. They've started to give you all sorts of useful information. about your customers, when they're on, what they're clicking on, what they're interested in. And if you're not taking advantage of that information, then you have a huge missed opportunity.
Lauren, I think those things are very important because, you know, this is a 24/7 medium, and there are people that are constantly on them, and I think that is a very important aspect of this. So as we move into our objectives for this program, walk us through these and help us understand where we're kind of going with this overall program to help address all of those issues that we just kind of talked about.
Okay, so we're going to be discussing the fundamentals of social media. So just basically, what is it for, what is it meant to do, and how do you use it on different platforms, what are your audiences there. Creating that strategy and implementation, that is really focused in exactly what type of person are you trying to reach and how to reach that person in the most efficient way possible. Selecting proper platforms for strategy and audience, that's looking into the situation of, are you trying to go for millennials? Are you trying to target women of a certain age demographic? So, and also, is your company the kind of company that's going to do better on a platform that's more text-based, that's more image-based? You know, what kind of interaction do you need to have with your audience? So where are you going to focus the most? Presentations and blogs. So there is a social media aspect to presentations nowadays, and how do you maximize that? And then every company needs to have some kind of way to create content and send it out there to bring customers back to them, and blogs are a great way to do that. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, the tools for analyzing all of the data that you get. What do you do with it? How do you share that with the higher-ups in your company to give them the best viewpoint of how they proceed on different actions? And then optimizing your social media, looking at how to create an overall brand through all of your social media accounts and having the same voice, and creating a situation where search engine optimization is working with you on social media as well.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of fun as we talk about these various objectives, and as we move right into this introduction to social media, you can see that there are a lot of aspects to social media. We've talked a little bit about what is social media, but we're going to talk about what is social media and how do you use it in business. What are the technologies that are available out there? You know, there's a variety of platforms. We'll talk about what those are, and you know, what is a social media consumer? A lot of times when we're looking at these consumers, they may be just consuming the information that you have there. There will be some that will be just watching what you're doing, learning from what you're putting out there. You're going to have a number of individuals that will have a various level of engagement within your social media strategy and program. Some will want to share the information that you're putting out there. Others will be also purchasing your product and this type of thing. There will be many that may help sell your product through these social media platforms, depending upon what their engagement is and how they feel with these things. So there's a variety of things that we will be talking about with social media. What is social media commerce? How as a business do you make money from your social media activities? But there's a lot more to it than just how do I make money with this effort that I'm doing. There's how do I take care of my customers? How do I collaborate with partners? How do I, you know, potentially entertain various things, depending upon what your organization goals are and mission is. That will help determine where your strategy, how you build your strategy and where you go with that strategy. So that's our first lesson, and then we'll move into more of really talking about business, because I think this is where we really need to do that. You can do this all on a personal, but how does a business environment use it?
Okay, so in this area, there's a lot of sometimes when you're in a company, there's not much embracing of the idea of using social media from the executives in the company. especially if you're in a situation where that person maybe is older and doesn't use social media themselves. And so they may not understand the opportunities that are available and how that needs to be done. So it's important to kind of create a plan and point out how it has to do with all of the different business objectives that you're trying to go for. And once you actually get buy-in, then you're looking at how are you going to adopt it within the business. So are you going to have multiple employees in the business using social media? Are you going to have people promote your company through their personal profiles? And what are the guidelines for that? What is appropriate? What do you want people, how do you want your entire company to work together with that? And how does that go with the goals of your company? How are you going to help it, help you generate revenue? Are you looking to get more visibility for certain parts of your brand? What are you trying to do with it? And then there are the job roles. So there are a lot of different jobs that can go with social media. And they may run that entire team and look at the overall vision of how your social media is and be over several different people who are running your social media accounts individually. There could be your social media community managers, so they're actually interacting with the customers and kind of creating the online community. You could have people who are data analysts looking at all of your data. You could have people who are content creators, and this is very important, people who are writing the blogs and creating the graphic design for different advertisements you might use or different posts you can put up. And then we have to look at the impact of the business. What are the positives and negatives that could come out of it? You might get a lot of new fans, but you might also have a situation where something is posted that creates problems with your audience and how to deal with that and the risk management. And then boosting brand recognition, so looking at having, how do you have your logos up everywhere? How do you create something recognizable that your customers are going to identify with and understand across all of your different platforms? And just the general advantages to your business, how this could help. And this is going back to kind of selling it to the rest of the members of your business and why this is worth spending time and resources on.
Yeah, and Lauren, I think these are some very important topics to discuss, and I think you started out as you said you need to get the buy-in from senior management. If you're in a large organization, you've got to have that senior management that's interested in doing and participating in social media, so that you can assemble this strategy and this plan as you move forward with what your goals are. So as we talk about developing this social media strategy, there's a lot of things that we need to consider. There's a process of, once you have the strategy, it could be an ever-changing type of plan, because you're constantly going to listen to and analyze what your community is saying. You're going to then identify, and you need to identify your target audience, so you're really focusing in on those individuals that are most interested in what you have to offer. What are your goals? How do you define those strategies? How do you implement that? And then you continually monitor and adjust. And this just kind of continues to go around and around as you improve and grow and build on this strategy. One of the key things is to analyze your market segments to determine who really can you reach and who can you really have communication with that helps accomplish the goals that you're building in your strategy. So as you look at the bottom left corner here, it talks about a primary target audience, a secondary target audience, and just your overall social media audience. So we'll go into how do you really target what you're looking for? How do you find the most impact for those that are really mostly interested in your product or service? That's a very important thing. And as you're able to analyze those market segments and target that audience, you build what are called personas. And this is A persona is a profile of the type of individual that is in your primary target audience. Lauren, you mentioned earlier about you know, whether, you know, who are you targeting? Are you targeting women? Are you targeting, you know, millennials or business professionals, or, you know, you want to understand where your audience is and then build out those profiles so that your activities help encourage that individual and invite that individual, that type of person, to really participate in what you're doing. And your targeting your audience is very important there. We also talk about SWOT, so that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are the strengths of your organization? What are the strengths of your strategy? What are the weaknesses that you have? And you can, as you work through this process, you can determine how we can get better. You know, what your opportunities are, maybe what are the challenges that your organization faces, and how can we build out greater opportunities for people to come in and participate with our products. And then threats. Who is the competition? Those types of things. So we'll go further into this, and as we go through these lessons, the labs and the activities will help you and give you opportunity to kind of define these things as you go through with your own business, or potentially, you know, a fictitious business that you will kind of be putting together as you go through these lessons. So this will help us understand that. So there's, you know, you can go through this SWOT analysis as an individual, as a department, as an organization, and we kind of help and teach you how to go through that. So once you get your strategy together, then you need to start working on campaigns and other things to put that out into the market.
And this is the fun part, and this is something that I help do. I've done this in my personal businesses as well as with this company. So you want to, before you ever get started, you really have to do a lot of thinking about your situation. What do you have available to you at the company? Who are you trying to target? What resources might you possibly need, including, you know, are you going to need to hire more people or bring people over for other departments to create these campaigns? What are you trying to do? What is your goal? So that's preparing. You have this nice graph across the top here. So you have preparing. Planning is where you're actually starting to put together the entire campaign. And this could be a, you know, organic campaign or a paid-for campaign. They both have the same kind of idea here. So you need to, this is the stage where you're actually putting everything together. In the development, that's the same. So you have planning, development, and then implementation is where you actually start to put everything into action. And you have to be willing to be flexible in this kind of situation, because you want to see, you know, how well are things working. You may put up different versions of different kinds of posts on different days and see if you get more engagement, say if something has more imagery versus more text, that kind of thing. And then you have reporting and refinement. So, you know, how did it do, and how would you change it for the next time? Project management is very important during this. So it's important to have something like an editorial calendar where you are seeing what's being posted on different social media sites at different times, and making sure that everybody in the team has their different deliverables ready for the actual campaign. And then refining your strategies and tactics over time so that you have something that's consistent that actually helps to reach your goals. Another thing you're looking at is developing content. So what are you posting? And this is where we get to these circular graphs over here. So, you know, you don't want everything that you post to be promotional. You want only 20% of it to be promotional, and the rest to be something that you created that's of value to your customers. It's not just trying to sell them something. You also can think of the rule of thirds, where you're dividing it up between promoting, sharing, and engaging. So you have a variety of different types of posts, and you're not creating this onslaught of the same thing that bores your audience. And also, you know, you can use content. When curating content is the idea of pulling in things from other sources. So it doesn't all have to be something that you created. It could be something that you bring together for your audience that's of value to them.
Yeah, Lauren, I think that's a really important topic in curating content. I think that you know, we don't have to produce everything ourselves. There's a lot of good material out there, and part of curating content, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the course, is building relationships with other individuals that are doing similar types of things. One's individuals or organizations that can help promote each other. And so this is where, you know, social media really kind of can grow tremendously, because we're working together to move individuals to a certain, you know, end goal. So I think that's very important. And you know, these two graphs do talk about two different types of rules, and we talk about, you know, the rule of thirds and the 80-20 rule and a couple other rules within these lessons to help us as you decide what your strategy is with your organization. So I think this is a very interesting lesson in helping us build out what that plan is and getting it going. I think that is a great some great topics. Now that you've got your strategy together, what are we going to do with it? Where are we going to go? There's a lot of places out there. What platform are you going to put it on? Are you going to try to be on all of the platforms, or are you going to be on only a few? You need to understand, again, this is where your target audience helps, because if your target audience is all on Facebook and you're posting stuff on Instagram or LinkedIn only, you may not be reaching that target audience. And so this is kind of where the personas and all of that help us understand where we're at. Many of us will need to be on all of these platforms in some degree, because we may have individuals and groups of people that are coming from those platforms. So again, this is where your persona, what do they typically consume on social media and those types of things. So there's a variety of platforms there. There's the, you know, the big ones that we're showing here. There's a lot of industry or niche platforms out there. Some of the things that you can look at, if you're a nurse, there's going to be some very specific social media locations for nurses, or for, you know, those in the health industry, or, you know, other industries that you might be working with. There may be some very industry-specific platforms that individuals use, and so you need to be aware of what your market is going to be consuming. And we need to talk about what your communities are. How do you have your community help grow where you're at? You know, with CIW, we have a lot of individuals. A lot of the people delivering our product are teachers. You know, whether they're in a K-12 market or a community college, or, you know, we have a lot of instructors that are out there. Where are they, and how do we communicate with them? I think a lot of them do tend to be on Facebook and some of these other platforms, because who are they communicating with? Well, their target audience are their students, and so they may be working with those individuals there. So it's kind of defining where your target audience is and what platform best reaches that audience. And you may have a couple different segments that you need to look at. So it's trying to identify which platform is the best, because it takes a lot of work to be on all of them. But one of the keys is, if you're going to be on a platform, we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, is you need to make sure that your message is similar, that it has a consistency throughout all of those platforms. And now we get to move to presentations and blogs. And Lauren, I think you've done a lot of work in this area.
Oh, yes. And one of the things that I was looking at here, and I didn't really think about the idea that, you know, webinars, and like what we're doing here, and webcasts and some of these other things, the live streaming can be considered social, because you have customers, users talking back and forth to one another, talking to you, and so being able to maximize that to actually be useful and create a meaningful experience for everybody, instead of them just feeling like they're watching a video, is important. So the nice thing about this is we talk about, just in general, how to give a good presentation. And the idea that you have everything planned out. You have a beginning, middle, and end to what you're doing. You have a clear, concise message. You've rehearsed it. You have some kind of cue cards or something that you're working from, maybe a PowerPoint presentation. And you've actually rehearsed it is also helpful as well. Trying to find a way to make it engaging and interesting. I used to be a teacher, and you have to actually give people something to look at and something that is meaningful, that's not just full of a bunch of text. You never want a PowerPoint presentation that's full of lines and lines and lines of text that somebody's basically just reading from. When you develop this, you want to go through and it's not just about self-promotion. Yet again, this is another situation where when you post things in social media, you don't want to be just saying, hey, buy this thing. You want to give everybody something that's actually useful and interesting. Otherwise, why are they there? And then promoting it, and of course social media is a great way to promote it, but you can use your other avenues as well. And the importance of not just flooding your news feed with the same thing over and over and over again, because people will tune you out. And you know, in the last few years, all of those social media sites have given people ways to mute you, to unfollow you. So if you're obnoxious just one day, you won't be seen again by that follower ever again. And then having deliverables. So you want people to come away with something, and that can be white papers, that can be information, PDFs, maybe like a free download of something or a free trial of something. So there needs to be something tangible that they can have afterwards that helps them remember you and want to follow up and continue with you. And then analyzing how that did. How many people have watched it? You know, how many people participated? Did they seem engaged? How can we make it better the next time? And then the different technologies. There are a lot of different webinar technologies that become available every single day, and they become improved upon, and they require less and less, you know, investment from people as far as equipment is concerned. They work on mobile, that kind of thing. And then in here we also have business blogs. So business blogs are really, I think they're kind of not optional. So basically you need to have something, some reason for people to go to your actual website. And having a blog is a great way to do that, because your search engines are going to pick it up, and then you can post it on all of your social media. It gives you something original and interesting for people to come read. It's important to segment those blogs up based off of who's going to be reading it. So if you're a web development company, you may have some blogs that are very technical, that are purposefully trying to pull over other web developers and give you a name within the web development community. But you're also going to have some that are directed completely at your customers about how you can make a great website that is search engine optimized, and why you need this, and how much time you should be putting into it, how often it should be updated, that kind of thing. And on these blogs, you can also, you don't necessarily have to have somebody at your company posting on it all the time. You could bring in guest bloggers from the industry, and that might bring in some more customers from other areas who follow those people. And it's also important to have them frequently posted. It's important to have high quality content. If it's just a bunch of junk, nobody wants to look at it. And it's not going to help you. You know, Google checks for quality in your content now, and it affects all of your rankings. So all of this matters. And this chart over here on the right is all about knowing what kind of audience you have and what their values are, and helping to direct all of your content toward that.
Yeah, I think those are very important things to think about, because, you know, as we talked about earlier on brand recognition and building your brand, bringing in guest bloggers that are in the industry that you're in can definitely help bring more individuals to your social media platforms and areas. So I think those are really great topics. Now we get into the kind of the scary little part of social media, managing your risks and your reputation, and how do you respond to a crisis. You know, there's a lot of things out there. We talk about things going viral, and that can be a good or that can be a bad. A lot of times, you know, there's one individual in an organization that says something that is just completely outlandish, and it's all over the news. So that can be good and that can be bad. I think we can all think of what's gone on over the last several years in various topics, whether it's political and we're not getting political, or whether it's you know, any type of area. You can see that what is posted can be very detrimental to an organization or very beneficial to an organization. I see a lot of things, you know, there's a lot of people that post, and this is where we're going to move away from vendor neutral slightly, but a lot of people post about Southwest Airlines and these wonderful things that they did. You know, and those are beneficial things, but you know, you get one flight attendant that treats someone wrong, and it could be everywhere. You know, so there's a number of things that we need to look at here. So as we look at our risks with social media, what are they? What can they be? How do we avoid them? How do we assess when something is going to be going wrong? We have to have a management strategy. If something is going viral and you don't have a management strategy to deal with that, it's too late. You're not going to be able to respond properly to that. So how do you go about building that strategy? We'll talk about that in this lesson. Social media policies. Now these are probably more for the employees of the organization and how do they work within social media, because there are things that there may be individuals that get followed by your customers, by your target audience that work for you, that may have very different views potentially, or may post a number of things that might be negative about your organization. So there are social media policies that you will need to put together depending upon what your organization is, and how does that affect individuals' personal social media, because there may be a number of your customers that are following a particular individual, and maybe they're having a bad day and they post that on their personal social media site. How does that affect your business? Managing that data, managing the data that comes in from your social media sites, and what is that telling you? What are the responses coming in? There's a number of things like there may be a lot of legal and regulatory compliance issues that you need to do based upon the organization that you're in. If you're in a healthcare industry, you will have a lot of regulatory compliance issues that you need to deal with. You may not be able to post certain things because of privacy laws and that type of thing. So there's a number of things to understand there. The other thing that we need to understand in that legal and regulatory space is social media is not just the customers that are in the city that you're within, if that happens to be your target audience. Social media is going to be seen around the world, and so what are appropriate privacy policies? What are appropriate things that you can and can't do? There may be things that you're doing, and if you're trying to reach a worldwide audience, what are some of the rules and laws around the world? We can't just take, for those of us that are in the United States, we can't just take a US-centric approach to things, because we have customers throughout the world. How do they perceive this? So there's a lot of things that you need to look in to this legal and regulatory. You need to understand that a little bit better. And then finally, reputation management. This is where we talk about our crisis response. Having that plan set up so that when certain things happen, we can have an appropriate response, we can have a timely response, and we can help all of our customers understand that we're trying to work and take care of what we can do with these, with these situations. So this is kind of a very important aspect of it. I don't want to minimize this in any way, but this is where your legal department and human resources department really need to understand what the social media strategy is, and make sure that we have an appropriate plan to address various topics as we go through dealing with these situations that happen on our social media sites. And there's always advertising in everything that we do. So Lauren, let's talk about advertising a little bit and get a little happier mood than, oh, everything's falling apart around us with crises.
Well, advertising is incredibly necessary nowadays on social media. Most people are not going to see what you post anymore unless you pay for an ad. That is unfortunately the way it's been set up because all these companies want to make money. All these social media companies want to make money. So when you look at these, Facebook and Instagram are owned by the same people. So they have a very similar So if you post something on your quote-unquote page, you oftentimes have to share it through your personal profile to make sure all your friends actually see it, which is frustrating when you have a business and that's not really as much of an option. So promoting that post is actually a very useful thing to do. You also have specific types of ads that will run through the newsfeed that aren't necessarily a post or that you'll see on the side if you're in desktop mode. And you can go through on all of these different social media platforms and you can choose what your goals are. So what are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to get more followers? Are you trying to get people to click through to your website? What are you trying to get them to do? You can go in and you can, they all have pretty much every one of them has a bidding system where you choose what keywords or what demographics you want to go for, how much you're willing to pay, and you know, the bidding system can be manual where you set how many cents you want per bid or how many dollars even in some cases, or you could set have them automatically set what they want to bid for certain demographics. And you can usually set it to be where it's per day how much you're willing to spend, and that's for a longer term campaign, or per the entire campaign. And if you go for the entire campaign, it's usually a short duration because they'll usually spend all of your money very quickly to get everybody to see it all at once. So if you need something to happen quickly, that's usually your way to do it. All of these offer really good analytics throughout and after your campaign, so you can really see which customers were actually engaging, which demographic really was interested in those keywords, and then after that advertising campaign you can actually go through and start to target those groups further and try and create more conversions that way. Twitter is very similar to the way Facebook and Instagram are set up, so not much different than what I said. Twitter was the earliest adopter of doing ads. LinkedIn is a little bit different. LinkedIn allows for a lot more detail in how you set up your ad, and it's really meant more for business to business. So Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Google, those are all made for business to consumer. LinkedIn is really your fellow business people trying to advertise at them, and when you look at the way they set that up, it makes sense because they have a minimum amount of money you can spend, and it's really meant for more larger quantities of people. Google Plus actually goes through their Google Ad Network setup. And if you've ever been there, it's pretty complex, but the neat thing about it is that you can often, not only can you set up ads to go onto Google Plus, but you can often set it up to go through their entire ad network, which may show up on lots and lots and lots of websites. And then you can get that analytics information back through Google Analytics and really get some good data. So that's a really useful thing to do too. You want to look at what platform you're using because you really need to know who you're trying to target. You know, if you're a beauty company, for instance, Instagram and Pinterest are your place. Anything that's visual and you're trying to target, say, a lot of women, for instance, and maybe depending on the age demographic, you might pick one or the other between Pinterest and Instagram. And then best practices you're basically looking at your overall social media best practices, and they're very much the same as any other kind of posting. You know, people are more likely to click on something that has an image, or they're more likely to be engaged even farther with something that's a video. That's going to get the most message through to people because it's most engaging. It has movement. Most of them autoplay in people's news feeds nowadays. And this is the area of social media that changes constantly. So you really have to keep up to date on the newest things that the companies provide to allow you to advertise everything to the best of your abilities.
Yeah, and Lauren, you hit this on a number of them. All of them have maybe a little bit different process for how do they charge you for posting these ads. You really need to pay attention to that because you can go through a lot of money really quickly if you don't put appropriate plan in place and maximums, because they'll really go through it. It's kind of like what in the late 80s and early 90s when texting was just coming out. They charged for every text, so they charge for every click a lot of times in these platforms. Now let's talk about the metrics and the analytics that we can come from, that we can get from our social media activity. The main thing I want to talk about here, we're kind of moving quickly through our time, and I want to make sure that we cover everything. But the main thing is when we talk about ROI, return on investment, in social media, that's not always what dollars are coming back in. We do want dollars to come back in because we're going to spend a lot of time and effort in managing this social media strategy and what we're doing on these platforms. So we do need money to come back in to help cover the cost to doing that. But a lot of times the return on investment might be based upon your strategy. How engaged is my community? How many different types of followers do I have? Do I have a lot of people that are reposting what we're posting? Do I have a lot of people that are really kind of sharing that material and getting that word out? Are they kind of building that brand and that reputation and the marketing that we're doing? Do we have an organic growth from that? So there's a lot of things that you can look at with that. There's a lot of data that comes back, and one of the things that you need to be as a social media strategist is understanding some of that data. So understanding data analysis is rather important as we go into this. We'll talk about that in this area, talk about the data mining. You're going to get a lot of different types of information in, and how do you process that? How do you transform that into something that, as we get down in that lower right corner, knowledge? What is really most useful when we look at those analytics? There's a lot that can be done with this particular topic. And then once we have all that data, we've got to report it out and learn from it and grow from it. So, Lauren, let's talk about optimization and reports.
So this is an area that I love. It seems very dry, but it's actually very, very interesting. Basically, you're looking at how do you present this data to everybody in your company so that they can make good decisions. So you really have to consider your audience, what kind of report you're going to make. You could have an executive summary where it's really just a broad overview, the most useful information. You might have other kinds of reports that are really, really detailed, and let's say we're making that just for the marketing team because you want to see all the little nitty-gritty of who clicked on what and what kind of demographic you have here that's interested in this. And you need to be able to gather all the data from all of your social media and compile it in a way that's useful. You don't want just a bunch of random charts from different things that hasn't all been compiled into something together. And all of this information is covered even more in depth in our data analyst course. So if this is interesting to you, I suggest you take a look at that one. And then we come back to the idea of social media optimization. So having a overall brand represented with all of your social media, making the best decisions that go toward your company objectives and what your mission statement has to do with, and following that cycle in the chart there of constantly analyzing, identifying, setting goals, defining strategies, monitoring, adjusting, and that is a never-ending cycle that is going on all the time. You never just put something up and then it's finished. It is always being tweaked.
Always have to address and keep track of what's going on and how do we move that to the next level. Those are very important things. And this is kind of the part of the social media strategist position that shows what you've been doing. Here's all the results, here's how we do it, and what's the next step? Continually moving on. So this is a very important part of it. Now, those are the topics within the course. Now, how do we deliver the course? What is changed? Those that have that might be new to CIW, this will be a well, yeah, you got to deliver this content. Those that have been with us for a while may say, what is changing? What's moving? We've recently created a new partnership with a company by the name of uCertify. And if you go to ciw.ucertify.com, you'll be able to see a lot of the CIW courses that have been moved to this new platform. And this really brings together these courses to flow much easier, to have all of the information in one place. For the curriculum, you don't have to go out to various different course offerings to get a practice exam or to watch the movies or those types of things. So we've brought them all together. Those that still want a book can still get a book, but all of the material is very easy to flow through. So I've taken a couple screenshots of the various things, whether they're the movies, whether they're interactive activities, assessments, various things that we go through. So the material is all on this new platform for CIW, and again, I said in about 2 weeks, I believe it's the 29th of March, we'll be having another webinar that will walk through a course on the CIW platform, and so we're really excited to show that to you. But all of these activities, all of these resources will still be available. Practice exams and optional labs and case studies. The hands-on labs that we have, any of the files that are necessary are right there where it says go do this lab, click on this. We're also building to be very integrated into this, a virtual lab environment that says you can click on it and watch the lab be done, or click on it and actually do the lab right there within the course. So there's not other places that you need to go log into or move to. So we're really excited about these changes. It's a lot of work to get that done, and we're trying to move very quickly to get all of those things taken care of for you. But this particular course, again, has 10 lessons, has all of the components that you're used to from a CIW product, and then we'll move into the certification exam. The certification exam is 55 questions. It has a time limit of 90 minutes. You need to answer 42 of the 55 correct to earn the certification. Currently, we have it available in our CTC test platform. For those that are in the K-12 market, it's definitely available, or any of those that have been set up as a CTC provider can deliver those exams. Those are available. You can talk to your account manager to get access to that and to move forward. PSI provides our video proctoring, our online proctoring option, and that exam will be available with them before the end of March. Lisa is currently going through that process to get all of the questions in and making sure everything's working properly, and that'll be done. And then those that need to go to a brick and mortar testing facility, we will have the exam available through View, and that's about 4 to maybe 6 weeks at the longest from today, and then that will be available. But this exam is available now through CTC, and most anybody can get set up that way if you want to go do that. We're really excited about this certification exam. It's a good program, and it will help a lot of people in the digital marketing space. Now, where does this sit and why would anybody want to, go in, and what's the pathway that we have for this? You can follow this down through, so you can start with our foundations courses. The ones we would recommend were Internet Business if you're just starting out, then into Site Development, so you can learn about HTML5, CSS3, moving on into the advanced course, and then User Interface Design, and then the Social Media Strategist. That would be one pathway you could take. If you don't need to be building those pages and doing a lot of that type of stuff, and you're more into just the strategy building and that type of thing, then you can take the Social Media Strategist as a standalone course, start there and move into it. But we would highly recommend you go Social Media Strategist and then Data Analyst, because Data Analyst will help you in the end part of that job role that you have in bringing all that data together to make wise business decisions and informed business decisions. So that's kind of the positioning of the program. There's a variety of ways to go through it, and we can help you with guide you and direct you as you need. Contact your account manager, and we can have some conversations about that. And so we're now at the end. We appreciate you for participating. We appreciate you for coming in. And if there are any questions, Lisa, do we have any questions we need to go through?
Todd, actually it's been very quiet today. Not a lot of questions in the questions panel in your GoToWebinar panel. If anyone has them and you want to get them in there, and in the next minute or two, we can certainly try to answer those. But it sounds like you have provided a very comprehensive presentation today, and everybody is pretty satisfied with what you've got so far. So thank you, Todd.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Again, if there are any questions about the courses, about the certification, contact your account manager. We can get those answers for you. We will have this PowerPoint presentation available a little bit later, as well as the recording if you want to review it or share it with anyone else. But again, thank you everybody for participating today and going through this new program. We hope that it will be a great benefit to you and your organizations and the individuals that you're helping move through into new careers. Thank you very much. Thanks, Lauren, for your time, and Lisa for monitoring us. Thanks.
No problem. You're welcome.